He'd lived alone for 8 years, talking only to his horses and the wind. Then, on a storm-lashed night, 10 Apache women appeared at his gate, begging for shelter. And Tobias Redmont knew. The men hunting them were already close enough to smell the smoke from his chimney. Rain hammered the shutters like gunfire. Decent people stayed inside when the sky turned violent, but someone was pounding on his door, not a neighbor's knock. This was raw, urgent, the kind that meant nowhere else to run. Tobias froze, leather bridle in hand. No one came to his ranch, not since he'd buried his wife and daughter and sworn off the world. Then he heard it. Apache. The language he hadn't heard since the day everything ended. His fingers twitched toward the rifle above the fireplace. Old habits died hard. But these weren't war cries. They were pleas. One voice cut through the storm, speaking English with a sharp, weary accent. "Please, we know you're there. Just shelter for tonight." He pressed his palm to the door, feeling their desperation vibrate through the wood. 8 years of silence had honed his instincts, and they screamed danger. Not from the women, but from whatever had driven them here in a storm that could kill in minutes. He remembered Sarah, how she'd scolded him for distrusting strangers. "Kindness is what makes us human," she'd say. But Sarah was gone, and kindness had gotten her killed. Then the voice came again, closer now. "They're coming. If you don't help us, we die out here. And when they find our bodies at your gate, you die too." His hand hovered over the iron bar locking the door, the same bar he hadn't touched in 8 years. But something in her voice, the certainty, the weight, told him this night would shatter his solitude forever. With a groan of rust and resolve, he lifted the bar. The door creaked open. 10 women stood drenched on his porch, dresses torn, faces streaked with mud and blood. The youngest, barely 16, clutched a weakly moving bundle, a newborn, lips pale from cold. An elder with silver-streaked hair watched him with eyes hollowed by loss. But it was the speaker who held his gaze. Ayanna. Blood trickled from a gash above her eye, her dress ripped at the shoulder, yet her chin stayed high, her stare unbroken. "I am Ayanna," she said. "These are my sisters, my daughters. We've been running 3 days." Tobias opened his mouth, questions swirling, but the baby's shallow breath silenced him. Some things mattered more than answers. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. They slipped inside like ghosts, filling his silent home with warmth, fear, and the weight of a choice he couldn't undo. For 8 years, this house had been his fortress, his escape from a world that stole everything. Now, with the women inside, it felt smaller, charged with the scent of rain, fear, and blood that wasn't all theirs. Ayanna was the last to step in. As she passed him, she whispered, "The soldiers are close. An hour, maybe less. They won't stop until we're all dead." Tobias barred the door again, though he knew it wouldn't matter now. His sanctuary had been breached, not by force, but by choice. And choices like this always came with consequences. "Why?" he asked, turning to her. "Why are they hunting you?" Her eyes held his, deep with a grief he recognized. "Because we ran instead of dying quietly. Because we fought back when they burned our village and slaughtered our men." She glanced at the baby in the young woman's arms. "And because one of their officers won't let my sister's death be witnessed." Tobias's gut tightened. He'd known men like that, uniforms hiding monsters who silenced truth with bullets. "How many?" 8 or 10, led by Captain Morrison. He calls us hostile, but his real war is against anyone who might expose him." Tobias peered through the shutters. The storm still raged, but out there, unseen, hunters moved with purpose. He turned back to find the women tending wounds, comforting each other. Survivors, not victims. Yet he'd learned long ago. Survival often demands becoming more than you ever wanted to be. "There's a cellar under the kitchen," he said. "Stone walls, hidden entrance. It'll fit you all, but it's tight." Ayanna shook her head. If they find us here, you die with us. If they find an empty house, they might leave you be. We won't drag you into this war." Tobias almost smiled. "Lady, I stopped being neutral the day I chose to keep breathing after they took my family. The only question now is, do we run, or make them regret coming here?" Something shifted in her eyes. Recognition, maybe even kinship. Then, through the thinning rain came the unmistakable sound. Hooves in mud, low male voices closing in. Tobias grabbed his rifle and ammo, but froze when he turned back. Ayanna stood taller now, no longer pleading. In her hand, a knife caught the firelight. Around her, the other women had changed too. Weapons hidden beneath torn dresses, bodies positioned with quiet precision. "You're not helpless," he said, realization dawning. "We never were," she replied, voice edged with steel. "Morrison thinks he's chasing frightened women. He's about to learn how wrong he is." Without a word, the youngest woman slipped toward the back with the baby. 2 others followed. They moved like soldiers, not refugees. Tobias hadn't given shelter to victims. He'd opened his door to warriors playing a deeper game. "How many men have you killed?" he asked bluntly. "Enough to know," Ayanna said, unflinching, "that men like Morrison always underestimate Apache women. They won't be the last, but they might be the most surprised." Outside, voices grew clearer. 6, maybe more. Trained soldiers, confident in their trap. "The cellar," Tobias started again. But Ayanna cut him off. "If we run, they hunt us forever. If we hide, they'll search until they find us. But if we end this tonight, the hunting stops." Tobias felt it for the first time in 8 years. That cold, razor-sharp clarity before violence. Survival stripped everything away, leaving only what had to be done. These women hadn't stumbled here by chance. They'd chosen him, this storm, this night. They knew exactly who he used to be. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Ayanna's smile was as sharp as her knife. "Morrison expects helpless women. He'll find us instead. But when his men see a white rancher fighting beside Apache warriors, they'll hesitate, and that hesitation will kill them." Outside, boots sloshed through mud. A horse snorted near the barn. They were circling the house, checking exits, planning their assault. In minutes, they'd burst in, expecting cowering victims. Tobias chambered around. Sarah's voice echoed in his mind. "Kindness separates us from beasts." But maybe kindness sometimes wore a rifle and stood between evil and the innocent. "There's something else," Ayanna said quietly. "If we live through this, you can't stay here. Morrison's death will bring investigators. They'll come looking." He nodded. He'd known that the moment he opened the door. 8 years of peace ended tonight. Maybe some men weren't meant to hide forever. Then Morrison's voice cut through the rain. Booming, arrogant. "I know you're in there. Come out now, and we'll make it quick." Tobias took position at the front window. Ayanna and 3 others melted into the shadows. The rest vanished toward the back, turning his home into a kill zone. These weren't refugees. They were a war party, ready for this fight. "Rancher!" Morrison shouted. "Open up, or we'll treat you as an enemy of the United States!" Through the shutters, Tobias saw soldiers fanning out. Standard tactics, but built on a lie. They thought they surrounded frightened women and one timid rancher. Ayanna appeared beside him, silent as smoke. "The one by the barn, Sergeant Blake. He killed my husband. The one by the well, Corporal Hayes. He held my sister down while Morrison..." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. That old rage rose in Tobias, cold, familiar. These weren't soldiers. They were predators. And predators only understood one language. "How do we do this?" he asked. Morrison always leads through the front. He wants to see fear in his victim's eyes. His men will hit the back and sides, expecting no resistance. She pressed a small polished mirror into his hand. "When you see the signal, take Morrison. We handle the rest." Before he could ask what signal, a younger voice broke through. The storm. "Captain, maybe it's just some rancher riding out the weather." Morrison laughed. Harsh, cruel. "Private Wilson, those tracks lead right here. 10 women, bleeding, running hard. Anyone inside is already dead for helping them. We do this my way." Rifles clicked. Safety's off. The end was coming. He chose. The door exploded inward. Morrison charging in, rifle raised, only to freeze. Tobias's Winchester stared him down. Confusion flickered across the captain's face. This wasn't the script. In that split second, Ayanna flashed the mirror. Light glinted in the firelight. A signal. The storm swallowed the sounds that followed. Blades slicing through rain-soaked uniforms, muffled gasps, men falling before they could scream. Apache justice, swift and silent. Morrison's eyes widened. He realized too late he'd walked into a trap. Tobias's finger tensed on the trigger, but Ayanna was already behind Morrison, her blade sliding between his ribs. "This is for my sister," she whispered. As he crumpled, she gripped his chin, forcing him to look at her. "And this is for every woman you thought too weak to fight back." Morrison hit the floor. Then, new sounds, hoofbeats, shouts, torchlight flickering in the distance. More riders. Dozens. Morrison hadn't been the main force. He was just the scout. Ayanna yanked her blade free, face hardening. Her women emerged from the dark like spirits, silent, ready. Their victory had lasted 30 seconds. 15 riders. Maybe 20, the scout whispered. They heard the shot. They know something's wrong. Tobias felt that old weight, the kind that came when every choice led to blood. Fight and die, surrender and die slower. But then he looked at Ayanna and her women, warriors who'd turned his refuge into a fortress, and saw a third path, becoming the man he was before grief buried him. "The Stormeller," he said. "Not to hide, to survive what's coming." Ayanna shook her head. "We can't outrun 20 riders. They'll hunt us across 3 territories. We're not running." He strode to a cabinet untouched for 8 years. Inside, wrapped in oiled cloth, dynamite, fuses, tools from his railroad days, and darker work from the war. "This ranch sits on a hill," he explained, fingers moving fast as he prepped charges. "Spring floods drain down both sides. I built a dam to control it, but blow it during a storm like this." Ayanna's eyes lit with understanding. "The valley floods. 10 feet of water in minutes. Anyone down there drowns. But your home, your land." Tobias glanced around the cabin, his prison for 8 years, then at Morrison's body cooling on the floor. "Home isn't walls anymore. It's who you protect." He echoed Sarah's old words. "Some things matter more than property." Outside, shouts grew louder. They'd found Morrison, realized their easy prey had teeth. Then, a new sound, a baby's cry. Not the one in their arms, another, out in the storm. Tobias froze. The dynamite felt like guilt in his hands. "It could be a trick," Ayanna warned, gripping his arm. But he shook his head. He knew real fear when he heard it. One of Morrison's men had brought his child, now trapped in a massacre not of its making. "We can't blow the dam," he said quietly. "Not with an innocent down there." "Then we all die," one woman snapped. "My daughter's life matters too." She was right. But some lines, once crossed, turned a man into something he could never undo. "There's another way," Tobias said, setting down the explosives. "Harder, riskier, but it keeps everyone breathing." He opened a second cabinet, this one filled with relics of a different war. Caltraps, tripwires, bear traps that had never caught bears. Only men. 8 years ago, I fortified this place out of fear, he said. Tonight, we use it to give others a chance to live. Ayanna's gaze sharpened. "How do we divide them?" "We give them what they expect, a last stand. Barricade the front. Make noise. They'll send half their force to flush us out. The rest stay back with the horses. And that baby." He met her eyes. "Then we show them the difference between hunting helpless women and fighting people with nothing left to lose." The plan was brutal, insane, perfect. Ayanna and 4 women would draw the assault at the front. Tobias and the rest would slip through hidden trails only he knew. Target the rear guard, grab the child, and strike where they least expected. "If this fails," Ayanna said as they readied to split, "Morrison's death means nothing. They'll call us savages and use our bodies to justify 10 more raids. Tobias slung his rifle, jaw set. And if we do nothing, that baby dies for its father's sins, and you all die for daring to survive. He looked into the storm. I've been dead for 8 years. Tonight, I choose to live. The baby's cry came again, fainter now. Time was bleeding away. Every second lost meant the child edged closer to death. And another ghost for Tobias's conscience if he lived. Move, he whispered. Ayana and 4 women took position at the front. Tobias led the rest out the back, slipping into the storm. Rain had eased, but the mud threatened to betray them with every step. Then, he saw it. The baby wasn't with the rear guard. It was between the 2 forces, trapped in the kill zone. Cries came from a military supply wagon parked in the open. As Tobias crept closer, he spotted a young woman hunched over a bundle, dressed not as an officer's wife, but as a camp follower, a laundress or cook, dragged into hell by Morrison's lies. He signaled the Apache women to hold. Then alone he moved in. From the house, Ayana's distraction erupted, gunfire, crashing wood, shouts. It worked. Soldiers rushed toward the cabin, leaving only 3 guards behind. 3 was still too many. Tobias stood, rifle low, and walked straight toward them. Easy, soldier, he called, voice calm, authoritative. Morrison sent me to secure the civilians. In the chaos and dark, his coat passed for uniform. The nearest guard hesitated, just long enough. You're not Army, the man said, uncertain. No, Tobias agreed, and clubbed him with his rifle butt. The soldier dropped without a sound. The woman looked up, eyes wide with terror. Barely 19, hollow-cheeked from hardship. Please, it don't hurt my baby. She's done nothing wrong. Neither have you, Tobias said gently. Name? Mary Hendricks. I cook, do their washing. Morrison said it'd be safe. Said we were just arresting horse thieves. Rage flared in Tobias's chest. Even in death, Morrison poisoned lives. Listen carefully, he said. When the shooting starts again, run to those trees. Follow the creek south, 5 miles to a trading post. Tell them Tobias Redmont sent you. What about you? She asked. Before he could answer, shouts. The other guards had spotted him, but the Apache women were already moving, silent, swift, lethal. These soldiers expected cowering women. They met warriors instead. The fight ended in seconds. Mary vanished into the storm, baby clutched tight, free. But then, silence. Not the quiet after victory, the silence after slaughter. From the house, no gunfire, no voices, just wind, and a new voice cutting through the dark, cold and commanding. This is Colonel Bradley, United States Army. You are surrounded by a full company of soldiers. Surrender now, Colonel Bradley's voice boomed, or we burn you out and hang the survivors. Tobias's blood ran cold. Morrison hadn't been the leader. He'd been the lure, and Bradley had been watching the whole time, letting others die while he sealed the trap. Torches now ringed the ranch. Not a dozen riders, but a full company. They'd walked right into it. Then, Ayana's voice cut through the dark. Tobias, we have Bradley's son. Silence fell. Even the wind held its breath. Bradley's next words trembled. Release the boy, and we can discuss terms. There are no terms, Ayana shot back. Only justice. Your men burned our homes, murdered our families, and worse. Now you answer for it. Tobias moved toward the house, weaving through the battlefield. 2 Apache women lay still in the mud, their sacrifice buying the others a chance. Inside, Ayana stood behind a young lieutenant, knife at his throat. Barely 19, with his father's sharp jaw, but eyes wide with terror, not command. He came through the back, Ayana said. Thought he was flanking us. Instead, he walked into our hands. How old are you? Tobias asked. 19, the same age as Mary's baby. The same age as girls Morrison had slaughtered. Did you know what Morrison was really doing? The boy hesitated. Father said, they were hostile raiders, that we were protecting settlers. He lied, Ayana said softly. We grew corn, raised children, lived in peace. But peaceful people don't justify armies, or budgets. Outside, Bradley's voice cracked. I have 60 men. Release my son, I'll give you safe passage to the border. Tobias almost laughed. Promises from a man built on lies. But then he saw it. The dawning horror in the lieutenant's eyes. He was learning the truth, and that truth could destroy his father. There's another way, Tobias said to Ayana. His death won't bring back your people, but his testimony might stop more from dying. The boy whispered, You want me to betray my father? I want you to tell the truth, Tobias replied. The question is, Can you live with what that means? Before anyone could answer, new hoofbeats thundered. Not Bradley's men, federal marshals, investigators. Someone had been watching, and tonight's bloodshed had finally drawn official eyes. As dawn broke, gold and crimson over the ruined ranch, justice began to unfold. Colonel Bradley was arrested, his career shattered by his own son's testimony. The Apache women received federal protection. Mary Hendricks and her baby were safe. Tobias stood in the wreckage of his home as Ayanna prepared to leave. "Where will you go?" he asked. "North, to kin who escaped Bradley's raids. We'll rebuild, but not here. This land holds too much blood." She studied him. "And you?" "Your solitude's gone. Your home's gone," he nodded. The hermit had died last night. In his place stood a man who remembered. "Some things are worth defending. I think I'll head west," he said. "Find a place that needs someone who can build and protect." Ayanna smiled, the first real one he'd seen. Mary Hendricks rides to Denver. A woman alone with a baby. The trail's dangerous, Tobias understood. His new life wouldn't begin with escape, but with escorting others to safety. As the Apache women rode north toward hope, and Tobias saddled his horse for the west, the sun rose over a ranch soaked in blood and redeemed by courage. Years later, travelers would whisper of the night 10 Apache women and one broken rancher stood against an army and won. But those who lived it knew the truth. The hardest choice isn't between right and wrong. It's between staying safe and staying human. And sometimes when the world demands it, being human is the only thing that counts.